Aria Blake couldn't shake the feeling that she had just walked into the lion's den. The elevator doors slid shut behind her, sealing her fate. Her heart pounded like a drum. Her reflection fractured in the mirrored wall. What if he knows? What if I get caught? She muttered in panic. Perhaps she had forgotten she wasn't the only one in the elevator, or she thought she had only said those words in her head. But her eyes widened in shock, and her blood turned to ice the moment she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Know what?" came an older voice behind her. "What are you talking about?" She turned slowly, like a zombie, to meet the probing gaze of an elderly man in a suit. His ID tag gleamed, an executive of the company. Nothing," she managed. "Just some personal family stuff." "Are you sure you're all right?" he pressed, his eyes searching hers. "Of course, sir." She forced a smile to complement her words. The man was about to say something else when the elevator doors parted with a hiss, spilling white light into the dim lobby. He patted her shoulder and walked away. Relief swept through her as she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her sweaty hand clutched a leather folder tight against her chest. The air smelled of polish and power, cold, controlled. 3 years of planning had led her here, into the empire of the man who was responsible for her brother's death. Before we go any further into this storm of secrets, revenge, and love, tap that like and hit subscribe. What's coming next will shake you. Now let's continue. Aria forced her shoulders square. "No more mistakes, Aria." The receptionist didn't even glance up. "You must be the new assistant. Mr. Cole's expecting you. Top floor." "Thank you," she said, her voice steady only because she made it be. Back inside the elevator, her reflection glared at her from mirrored walls. The fluorescent light was merciless. "You belong here," she told herself. "Don't shake. Don't breathe too loud." When the doors slid open again, silence swallowed her. Glass, chrome, and authority. Her heels echoed toward the frosted door marked Adrian Cole, CEO. A shadow shifted behind it. Her pulse quickened. Now or never. She knocked. The door opened to reveal Adrian Cole, tall, precise, and far too calm for a man with his reputation. The faint tiredness under his eyes softened what should have been intimidation. "You're late," he said, glancing at the clock. I'm sorry. Traffic was." "Excuses travel slower than truth, miss." "Blake. Aria Blake." "Right." His gaze swept over her like he was reading fine print. "You'll manage my schedule, handle correspondence, and do anything I don't have time for. Which, if you're lucky, won't include cleaning up my messes." Her palms grew damp. "Understood. Your file says you were with Hamilton and Sons." "How was that?" "Steady. Demanding." "Good. I like demanding." His tone was unreadable. "They said you were competent. Let's hope they weren't lying." He handed her a folder. "Start with these. Left cabinet. And don't touch anything on the right." "Off limits." "Yes." "Private." She nodded. Her fingers brushed the folder's edge, but her mind was already racing. Private meant secrets. Secrets meant leverage. The day dragged under the hum of computers and the weight of silence. Adrian barely looked up from his laptop, and somehow that made her more nervous than if he'd shouted. When she finally finished, dusk had turned the skyline to gold. "You're still here?" he asked, closing his laptop. "You said to finish before leaving. You take instructions too literally. It's good, until it isn't." She blinked, unsure if that was advice or a warning. "I'll remember that." He stood, adjusting his cufflinks. "Get some rest, Miss Blake. Cole Enterprises doesn't reward martyrs." When he walked past, she caught the faint scent of cedar and restraint. The door shut behind him, leaving a silence that hummed with unspoken things. Aria exhaled. He didn't seem arrogant or cruel. He was controlled. Too controlled. Curiosity tugged at her like gravity. She drifted toward his desk. A photo sat near the edge, Adrian laughing with another man. "Liam." Her breath stuttered. Her brother's smile, frozen beside the man who destroyed him. Her fingers trembled above the frame. "What did he do to you, Liam?" she whispered. She straightened the photo again, every motion deliberate. Order, for now, was survival. The city lights beyond the glass blurred as she blinked back the tears that wanted to betray her. The next morning, she arrived before anyone else. Golden sunlight spilled across polished floors as she sorted files, trying to steady her hands. Then she heard it, voices down the hall. "The last assistant couldn't handle Cole," one man whispered. Or maybe she saw too much. Remember that guy who vanished? Liam something. Her throat tightened. The paper in her grip crumpled slightly. Before she could retreat, a voice came from behind her. You're early. She spun around. Adrian stood there, a folder in one hand, eyes assessing. I thought it'd be good to start ahead, she said quickly. He stepped closer, his voice low. Be careful, Miss Blake. Initiative is good, but boundaries matter more. Did he know she'd overheard? His eyes lingered just a second too long, searching for something she refused to show. Then he turned and walked away. Her pulse pounded as the door closed behind him. He's hiding something. He has to be. Later that day, Aria met Lillian. Elegant, polished, red lips and sharp smiles. So you're the new one, Lillian said, leaning casually against Aria's desk. Hope you've got thicker skin than the last girl. Aria forced a faint smile. Thanks for the advice. Not advice, Lillian replied. Warning, this place eats the weak. Aria held her gaze until Lillian smirked and walked away, heels clicking like gunfire. Let her underestimate me, Aria thought. That's safer. Night had fallen when Aria slipped into the archive room, a space that looked like secrets wrapped in dust. Her flashlight skimmed across the shelves until she found it. Internal, 3Y records. She slid the file free, and what greeted her stopped her cold. Liam's handwriting filled the margins, loops and slants she'd know anywhere. Her heart twisted. He was here. Why are you here alone? Adrian's voice cut through the silence like a blade. He stood in the doorway, half shadow, half authority. I was finishing up, she said too fast. His eyes flicked to the open folder. Those files are restricted. I didn't realize I was just. Don't, he said sharply, stepping closer. Don't make that mistake again. His tone was dark and menacing. She swallowed hard. Yes, sir. He lingered long enough for her pulse to stumble, then turned and left. Aria stared at the closed door. The air felt heavier now, laced with warning. He's hiding something, and it's tied to Liam. Her reflection stared back from the metal cabinet, eyes fierce, jaw set. I'll find the truth, she whispered, even if it breaks me. Every day in Cole Enterprises felt like walking a minefield. One wrong move, and she'd join her brother in the grave. In the following weeks, Aria tried to stay afloat. She was unrelenting in her quest for answers, for truth, for justice. She couldn't bring herself to ask Adrian face-to-face why he called Liam his friend, or why he had a picture of him in his office, yet publicly branded him a thief and fired him, pushing her brother to suicide. She needed the truth behind the alleged theft. She wanted to confront Adrian, but not yet. Not without proof. She was certain he was hiding something. The plan was simple: find Adrian's darkest secret and use it to destroy him. But every day without a breakthrough pulled her deeper into danger and temptation. The way her traitorous body reacted at the slightest brush of his fingers when he handed her documents, or how she'd sometimes catch herself staring too long at his sharp features. It infuriated her. Am I going crazy? She'd whisper to herself. I'm here to avenge my brother's death. But she couldn't deny it. The man she came to hunt down had become her quiet obsession. The devil had cast a spell, and she was losing her grip. One evening, Aria sat alone beneath a flickering bulb at Cole Enterprises. The folder Adrian had given her earlier lay open before her, its pages a maze of numbers and quiet deceit. Summarize these transactions. Keep it between us. His words had sounded simple enough. But now, hours later, they clawed at her. She traced a column of figures with her fingertip, steady at first, then faltering. Something was off. One entry duplicated, then another. Hidden loops. Repeated transfers. Offshore accounts. Her stomach tightened. The pattern was too deliberate to be a mistake. What are you hiding, Adrian? She whispered. Still working? The sudden voice made her jolt. Lillian stood by the doorway, framed in soft golden light from the corridor. Her red lipstick gleamed like a warning. I lost track of time, Aria said quickly, masking her nerves with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lillian's heels clicked closer. She set a paper cup beside Aria's hand, steam curling between them. You'll need it, Lillian said. He doesn't believe in short nights. Aria managed a faint smile. Thanks. I'm almost done. Almost done, Lillian repeated, as if testing the phrase. That's what the last assistant said before she stopped showing up. The words landed sharp and cold. Aria's voice faltered, but she forced composure. I'll take my chances. Lillian's smile lingered just a second too long, then faded. Good girl, she murmured and slipped away. Aria exhaled shakily. The coffee's warmth steadied her hands, but the unease refused to leave. Then her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Static filled her ear. A distorted male voice growled through the line, low and threatening. Be careful. Be very careful. Her grip tightened. Who is this? Silence. Then the line went dead. Her heart pounded. The reflection in the dark window stared back at her, pale, wide-eyed, unsure whether she was losing her mind or being hunted. Her gaze fell back to the folder. The signature at the bottom of one document caught her eye. Adrian's name, but wrong. The loops were too tight. The slant unfamiliar. A cold realization swept through her. That's not his handwriting, she whispered. It's forged. The elevator chimed behind her. She turned sharply. Adrian stepped out, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his forearms, exhaustion clinging to him like smoke. Still here? He asked, his tone softer than usual, but laced with an unreadable edge. I wanted to finish the reports, she said quickly, masking the tremor in her hands by stacking papers. He studied her, the faintest ghost of a smile tugging at his mouth. You don't need to prove yourself, he said quietly. Go home before this place starts feeding on you. I don't mind staying, she murmured. I like getting things right. Something flickered in his eyes. A memory, maybe pain. You remind me of someone, he said. Her pulse stumbled. Who? She stammered. Adrian's jaw tightened, his expression impassive again. Never mind. Silence stretched between them. Heavy, electric. Finally, he said, Good night, Aria. She nodded. Good night, Mr. Cole. He left without another word, disappearing behind the elevator doors. For a moment, his reflection lingered beside hers on the glass wall, two shadows that didn't quite align. When the elevator sank out of sight, the air grew still again. Aria stared at the skyline beyond the windows, neon bleeding across the glass like bruised light. She was in danger. She could feel it. Morning came with unease. Cole Enterprises buzzed with whispers, quick glances over screens, hushed tones near the coffee machine. Something had shifted. A canceled board meeting. A locked conference room. Adrian's office door closed tighter than usual. Aria worked, or pretended to, while fragments from the night before replayed in her head. The forged signature, the strange call, Lillian's insinuations. Every sound in the corridor made her flinch. By noon, curiosity broke through restraint. The restricted wing, the one Adrian warned her never to enter, pulled at her like a magnet. The hallway stretched long and sterile, every footstep echoing like guilt. She stopped at the door marked Executive Archives. The red scanner light blinked. Access denied. Her pulse quickened. She glanced over her shoulder. Looking for something? She froze. Lillian again, holding a file, her gaze steady and unreadable. I'm verifying finance approvals, Aria said, forcing calm. Lillian watched her for a moment, then swiped her access card. The scanner blinked green. You're lucky I'm generous, she said smoothly. Aria nodded. Guess I owe you one. Lillian smiled faintly. Oh, you owe plenty in this place. Just remember, loyalty here isn't about truth. It's about survival. Spend it wisely. Her perfume lingered as she walked away. Sharp, floral, unsettling. Aria swallowed hard and stepped inside. The air was stale. A single flickering bulb washed the room in ghostly pulses. Metal drawers stretched in every direction, labeled by year and department, an archive of buried sins. Her fingers trailed along the rows until they stopped. Internal records, year 3Y, Liam's year. Her breath hitched. Her hand shook as she pulled the drawer open, but before she could look inside, something shifted behind her. A sound, a breath, or maybe a step. She turned sharply. Nothing. Just the echo of her own heartbeat in the empty room. Get a grip, Aria, she whispered, pressing a hand to her chest. But fear had already taken root. She locked the drawer again and hurried toward the exit. The elevator doors closed behind her, a perfect seal. She tried to steady her breathing, but her phone vibrated again. Another message. No caller ID. You're closer to your end than you think. Her breath caught. She stared at the screen until her reflection blurred into the glass, pupils wide with fear. Thunder rumbled outside, low and distant, as if the city itself was warning her. And somewhere deep in the building's heart, a door clicked softly shut. Night thrummed inside Cole Enterprise, servers whispering, vents sighing, fluorescent lights buzzing like mechanical crickets in the dark. Aria sat alone at her desk, the monitor's blue glow painting soft halos beneath her tired eyes. Outside, the city pulsed like a restless sea of neon. Inside, silence lingered like a held breath. Her gaze drifted toward Adrian's office. His light still burned. Through the frosted glass, his silhouette moved, pacing, phone pressed to his ear, his voice calm but edged with exhaustion. A man trying to hold his world together while the cracks beneath him deepened. In her drawer lay a folder marked internal, 3Y records. Her brother's handwriting filled the margins, neat, familiar, haunting. She swallowed hard and rose quietly. Each step across the marble floor echoed too loudly, a rhythm of guilt and resolve. Near Adrian's door, she paused as his voice cut through the stillness. Low, sharp, restrained anger in every syllable. Don't ever threaten me again. Reveal yourself if you've got the guts. And if you don't, I'll still find you. He ended the call abruptly. Silence followed. Then he turned. Their eyes met through the glass, and for a fleeting moment, his hardened expression softened. Couldn't sleep? His tone was composed, though his jaw tightened faintly. She fumbled, clutching a random folder like a shield, dropping tomorrow's report. Tomorrow's? He echoed, eyes flicking to the papers. Then, softer, you can leave it. The air inside his office carried faint traces of cedar and rain. She stepped closer, her heartbeat wild against the quiet. Adrian moved around his desk, his strides deliberate, almost predatory. Aria froze. The dim office light sculpted the lines of his face, the tired eyes, the defined jaw, the faint stubble shadowing his cheek. Something deep inside her stirred before she could suppress it. Don't you dare, she warned herself silently. You're here to expose him, not fall for him. But by the time she collected her thoughts, he was right in front of her. Their proximity was dangerous. Her breath caught as his scent enveloped her. Their faces were only inches apart. Her fingers gripped the edge of his desk for balance. Her mind screamed to step back, but her heart refused to listen. He leaned slightly closer. Her pulse spiked. For a heartbeat, she thought he'd seen through her doubts, her deception, her fear. But then his gaze softened, searching for truth in her silence. Tell me something, Miss Blake, he said, voice low and husky from fatigue. Do you think people can change? She blinked, startled. Change? After they've lost everything, he murmured. Can they ever start over? Her breath trembled. I think they can, if they want it enough. Then I hope you're right, he whispered. Her eyes stung with unshed tears. His words didn't just stir her fading suspicions. They reopened wounds she'd fought to bury. Memories of Liam flickered painfully through her mind. Now wasn't the time, she reminded herself fiercely, suppressing the storm building inside her. His words sounded too much like a confession. She set the folder on his desk and turned to leave, before her last thread of composure snapped. Back at her desk, hot tears spilled down her cheeks. Change. Did that devil just say change after what he did to her brother? Who was he trying to deceive? She didn't care that she had once found documents with forged signatures suggesting his possible innocence, or that those same fake files had been used by an anonymous source to siphon company funds, framing Liam in the process. What she knew was simple. Even if Adrian didn't kill her brother directly, he knew something, and he was hiding it. She would not expose herself, not until she uncovered everything. Morning arrived colorless and sharp. Cole Enterprises buzzed with tension, footsteps quick, voices lowered, printers spitting papers like nervous ticks. A memo sat neatly on her desk. Internal audit. All staff to report project histories for review. Her pulse spiked. An audit meant exposure. Exposure meant danger. Lillian passed by her desk, poised as ever, her perfume trailing like silk. Looks like the board's tightening the leash again, she said lightly. Poor Adrian. He's been walking on knives lately. Aria forced a calm smile. Why's that? They're reopening the Liam Morgan case, Lillian replied. The word struck like ice. Reopening. MHM. Lillian's tone was calm, almost sympathetic. Someone up top thinks it wasn't suicide. Aria's voice faltered. And they're just realizing that now? Timing's everything, dear, Lillian said softly. The dead have a way of speaking when we least expect it. When Lillian left, her scent lingered like roses and metal. Later, Aria entered Adrian's office again with a file. He stood by the window, the skyline fractured and shimmering behind him. "The auditors will be here by noon," she said quietly. "I know." His tone was even, but his hands stayed buried deep in his pockets. His reflection trembled in the glass, a man torn between truth and ruin. "If there's anything I can do." "Yes." He turned slightly. "Stay calm. Keep the team from panicking." She nodded. "Of course." "And Aria?" She stopped. "Yes. Stay away from the archive room until this is over." "Understood," she said softly, turning to leave. But Adrian caught her hand. "I didn't do it, Aria." Confusion flickered across her face as she tried to pull away. "What are you talking?" "Drop it. I know everything." He cut in, voice low and firm. Her breath hitched. "You know?" He nodded. "You have Liam's eyes. And your job application. You formatted it the same way he used to structure reports. I knew the moment I read it." Her planned outrage melted into stunned silence. Adrian seized the moment to speak. He told her how he'd found out about Liam's sudden absence, how he couldn't reach him that night, and how the news of his suicide had shattered him. Months later, he'd uncovered the anonymous siphoning and the forged documents bearing his own seal, the same fake evidence used to dismiss Liam. Though the theft had stopped, he was furious at how easily he'd been manipulated. He'd taken silent blame, pretending to be responsible for the dismissal while secretly investigating the culprit. Only a few knew about the case. Him, Liam, and whoever had forged those files. But rumors eventually spread that he'd branded Liam a thief and ruined him. He ignored the gossip at first, until it became clear that someone had been fabricating new evidence to destroy him completely. The revelations hit Aria like a tidal wave. Her chest heaved, her pulse uneven. Sensing her distress, Adrian gently reached for her hand again. "Aria, you and I have been chasing the same truth for over 2 years. We're not enemies. We can do this better together." Aria had longed for the truth, but now, she didn't know what to believe. Trusting Adrian felt like stepping into fire. Without a word, she pulled her hand free and walked back to her office, where she finally broke down in tears. By midday, the boardroom roared behind closed doors. Aria lingered outside, pretending to sort files, her heart pounding. Signature verified. Adrian Cole authorized the dismissal. A voice snapped. "That's impossible." Adrian's voice, sharp and indignant. "I never signed that document." "Then explain why it bears your seal." Her stomach twisted. Liam's name echoed again. Adrian's tone followed. Not guilty, but desperate. Aria's hand trembled, the paper in her grip crumpling. When the doors finally opened, Adrian emerged. His expression was stone, his phone clenched tight. He didn't look at her as he strode past. The elevator swallowed him whole, his reflection fracturing in the mirrored walls. He was a man unraveling, and she was the only one who could feel it. That night, her apartment was silent but uneasy. The city's glow pulsed against the blinds, smearing faint blue streaks across the walls. A candle burned low beside her. The letter lay open, her brother's supposed proof of betrayal. Adrian's signature stared back, smooth and damning. It looked real. It always had. But something deep in her gut whispered otherwise. She remembered finding the letter weeks after Liam's death, the forged document accusing him of theft, the CEO's name sealing his fate. She'd marked Adrian as her prime suspect from that moment. But now, staring at that same letter, her pulse raced. If Adrian didn't sign it, who did? Thunder cracked, lightning splitting her reflection in two. "I think I've been wrong about him," she whispered. Across town, a black sedan idled by the curb. Inside, a man exhaled smoke, the glow of his phone screen lighting his face. "Text. She's getting close. We move soon." He hit send. The cigarette ember dimmed in the ashtray as the car rolled away, swallowed by rain and night. With the culprit still at large, Aria knew it was far from over. So she returned to Cole Enterprises the next day and kept digging. Days passed. Amid their usual rhythm, she and Adrian gradually fell back into a fragile normalcy, a quiet routine stitched together by caution and unresolved truth. One evening, Aria sat before her monitor, her reflection fractured across the glass. The ledgers didn't align. Again, 2 data breaches in 1 week. No suspects. No logs. just blank trails, as if someone had quietly rewritten history. A knock broke the silence. Adrian stood at the door, fatigue shadowing his face. "Aria," he said lowly. "The board's asking about a missing contract. Someone tipped them off. Do you know what's going on?" She shook her head, though her voice trembled slightly. "No. But whoever's behind this, they're inside." He studied her for a long moment. Unreadable, controlled. "Then let me handle the board. You keep digging." Quietly, as he turned and disappeared down the hall, his shadow melted into the dim light. Beneath Aria's desk, a faint red light blinked from a hidden recorder, a silent pulse of betrayal, unseen. Morning came, and whispers rippled through the cafeteria like wildfire. 2 guards escorted a trembling employee past the crowd, the man's voice cracking with desperate pleas of innocence. Aria froze mid-sip of her coffee, unease tightening her chest. Something about it felt off, too loud, too fast, too theatrical. She turned and almost bumped into Lillian. "Whoa." Lillian laughed softly, steadying her tray. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just a weird morning," Aria murmured. "Yeah, tell me about it." Lillian handed her an extra cup. "Here. You look like you need this more than I do." Aria hesitated, then accepted it, her gaze flicking to the warmth in Lillian's smile. "Thanks," she said quietly. Lillian nodded and walked away. As the elevator doors slid shut, Aria caught her reflection, cautious, uncertain. Had she misjudged her? That night, the storm returned. Aria sat by her apartment window, rain tracing trembling paths across the glass. Her thoughts wouldn't rest. Adrian had been distant lately, colder, distracted, as though drifting deeper into a fog she couldn't see through. While digging through old records, she stumbled on a hidden folder, Liam's archive correspondence. Her pulse jumped. She opened the encrypted drive, scrolling until a concealed directory surfaced. /internal, archive, /LiamM. Inside were old emails, conversations between Liam and someone who called himself Mr. Anonymous. At first, the exchanges seemed harmless. But soon the tone darkened. Phrases surfaced like poison beneath calm waters, redirecting control, liquidation authority, neutralizing internal risk. Her stomach turned cold. It wasn't sabotage, she whispered. It was a takeover. The next morning, Aria stormed into Adrian's office, clutching a stack of files. "I found something," she said breathlessly. Liam was being blackmailed by someone on the board. Adrian straightened, his eyes narrowing. "Who?" He had no name. He called himself Anonymous. He manipulated company assets, maybe even forged your signature. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Then he's not working alone. You see now that I wasn't lying about the siphoning." Aria nodded, recognizing the same exhaustion and resolve in his voice that she felt in herself. Adrian's mind was already racing. This had to be the same person who'd been sending him threatening messages months earlier, demanding he step down as CEO or face the consequences. He turned toward the window, his reflection overlapping with Aria's in the glass. Across the street, a man in a dark cap stood motionless, watching. Later that night, Aria waited in her car in the underground lot, engine off, rain ticking against metal. Another text appeared on her phone. "You're being watched closely." Her chest tightened. She scanned the mirrors. The lot was nearly empty, except for one car parked beneath a flickering light. Something shifted. A shadow moved between the vehicles. Then, stillness. A sudden crack shattered her rear window. Aria screamed, ducking as glass exploded across her seat. Her heart pounded like thunder. She looked up, but the shadow was gone. The next morning, the air smelled like chaos. Cole Enterprises felt tense and raw. Security teams swept every floor, and the boardroom buzzed with quiet panic. "Until we know who's responsible," Adrian said sharply. "All projects are suspended." Among the gathered board members, Aria's eyes caught a familiar face. She had seen him once before, that man from the elevator on her first day. Now, she read the name on his ID, Dr. George. She smiled faintly in greeting. He didn't smile back. Instead, he frowned, studying her with a look of quiet suspicion. Aria stiffened as she remembered the words she had mistakenly said out in his presence that day. What if he knows? What if I get caught? Then realization hit her. He must have really overheard her that day in the elevator. She almost scoffed aloud. Really? Was he suspecting her? Even after she'd been attacked last night? Did he think she was putting on a show? A drama queen hiding a secret behind shattered glass and fear? Her disbelief simmered beneath her calm expression. But deep down, she knew one thing. Someone inside Cole Enterprises was still pulling the strings. Thunder cracked like gunfire across the night. Rain whipped through the abandoned dockyard as Aria's car rolled to a stop, headlights slicing through mist and shadow. She sat motionless, staring at the anonymous message glowing on her phone screen. Come alone if you want the truth about Liam. Her breath fogged the glass before she finally stepped out. Boots splashed through puddles, the scent of rust and salt heavy in the air. Each step echoed with the weight of unanswered questions. A figure emerged through the downpour. Lillian. Lillian stood there, drenched, trembling, eyes darting toward the warehouse. You needed to know, she whispered. About Liam, about everything. Aria's pulse surged. You knew what happened to him, beyond the suicide? Before Lillian could answer, another voice sliced through the rain, cool, mocking, deliberate. Well, the loyal sister finally shows up. Fred stepped from the shadows, his grin sharp beneath the flickering floodlights. Beside him, Dr. George followed, umbrella in hand, face calm, like a priest walking into confession. Aria froze. How had she missed it all this time? George had known about her slip-up on her first day and said nothing. Now she understood why. At least with Lillian, she had sensed something off before dismissing it. But for the other guy, she had no idea who he was until he draped an arm around Lillian and smirked. Baby, he said with a laugh. Did I just hear her say suicide? He laughed harder, and Lillian forced a nervous chuckle. Come on, Fred. How could she know it wasn't suicide when we made it look so perfect? Aria's jaw fell open, words dying in her throat. Right, Fred sneered. She wouldn't have figured that out in a million years. George's voice cut through the storm, calm and venomous. We couldn't let your brother ruin years of planning. He was reckless. He didn't understand the order of things. Fred grinned wider. Right, Dad. Then he turned to Aria. And you should give him credit. The man you've been looking for was sitting right under your nose the whole time. The words struck her like a blade. You monsters! Aria screamed. You killed my brother. She lunged at Fred, rage tearing through her like wildfire. But before she could reach him, Lillian grabbed her, a gun pressing against her neck. No, please don't. The shout came from behind. Everyone turned. Adrian stumbled forward from the shadows, bruised, drenched, his clothes torn. He had apparently fought with the bad men guarding the warehouse to get here. For a brief heartbeat, Aria's lips trembled into a smile, her knight in battered armor. But her joy twisted into fear when she saw George aim a gun at him. Shoot me instead, Adrian shouted. Let her go. I'm the one you want. I won't live without her anyway. Aria's breath hitched. His words tugged at her heart like an open wound. No, Adrian, you can't. A gunshot tore through the rain. Fred staggered backward, eyes wide in disbelief before collapsing into the mud. His weapon skidded across the ground. George's scream shattered the night. Lillian, what did you do? Aria and Adrian rushed into each other's arms, holding tight as chaos erupted again. You old fool, Lillian hissed, tears mingling with rain. You and your son used me. I did everything for love, but he cheated on me, and you both planned to kill me. You thought I wouldn't find out. You naive little girl. George spat, raising his weapon. But the warehouse filled with flashing lights. Drop your weapons. Now, the police stormed in, shouting orders. George froze, his expression cracking at last as officers surrounded them. Morning came pale and unkind. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rain-soaked memories. Aria sat beside Adrian's bed, his arm bandaged, exhaustion etched into his face. You shouldn't have gone alone, he said softly. I had to, she replied. Liam deserved to be more than a name on a file. Adrian's gaze lingered on her, tender, heavy with things unspoken. And now that it's over, do you feel it? Justice. She looked away. Maybe justice doesn't fix what people break. Adrian reached out, fingers brushing hers. Maybe love does. Her lips curved faintly. You think so? I know so, he whispered. He leaned closer, and when his lips met hers, the world stilled. For the first time, there was no rain, no noise, only them. Cole Enterprises began to breathe again. The halls were calmer, no longer thick with lies. Aria stood in what had once been Liam's office, now hers, adjusting a framed photo of them both. His smile in that picture was still pure, untouched by ambition or deceit. Adrian appeared in the doorway. No flowers this time, just quiet warmth in his eyes. "Mrs. Head Analyst," he teased gently. "You look good behind that desk." She smiled. "And you look less like a CEO and more like someone who finally sleeps." He chuckled. "Maybe it's because I have you to keep me grounded." She stepped closer, their hands finding each other naturally. "You really mean that?" "I always did," he said, tracing her jaw with his thumb. "It just took me almost losing you to realize how much." They kissed, slow, lingering, the kind that rewrites every scar into something beautiful. Outside, sunlight cut through the gray sky, the first in weeks. Later that evening, as they watched the city lights flicker from her office window, Adrian murmured, "Do you ever think about how it all started? The lies, the secrets." Aria nodded slowly. "Every day? But maybe the point isn't what started it." She turned to face him, eyes soft but distant. "Maybe it's what we became after the lies were gone." We've come to the end of this story. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your thoughts and let us know where you watch from in the comment section. Your support keeps these stories alive.